Believe it or not, since the beginning of the 5th century, the Church has been celebrating numerous feasts that honor Mary, our Blessed Mother, and the unique part that she plays in the history of our salvation. Now, mind you, these are not triumphal feasts or commemorations like Easter and Christmas and Pentecost, because we're not really highlighting Mary's greatness. She wouldn't want us to do that. We actually rejoice in her simplicity. We celebrate over and over again the manner in which she simply said yes to the will of God at every turn. You remember that Mary once was in a crowd waiting for her son Jesus, and someone in the crowd said, "Your mother's waiting for you." And Jesus asked the question, "Well, who is my mother?" And then he proceeded to say to the listeners, "Whoever does the will of my Father in heaven, they are my brother and my sister and my mother." And that's what Mary really is. Even in the mind of Jesus, she is the first true disciple who really lived this truth. She is the listener par excellence. She is the gentle woman who listens to the Word of God, speaking to her in the daily events of her life, and then she acts on what she hears. So when the angel Gabriel told her that she was to be the mother of God, she just didn't sit there and act pregnant. She remembered, she heard, she listened, and she recalled the words of the angel who said, "And your cousin Elizabeth is now with a child. She is in her 6th month. She who was thought to be barren is now about to bear a child." So Mary, in hearing these words, immediately realizes that she's being called to act. And she gets up and she goes to care for her cousin Elizabeth, not for herself. St. Augustine says, Mary did the Father's will. And it was a greater thing for her that she was Christ's disciple than that she was simply his mother. Now, this might sound strange that I'm saying this and that St. Augustine says this, when I suggest that it's a greater thing for Mary that she was Jesus' disciple and not simply his mother. But when you think about it, it is precisely as disciple that Mary becomes the mother Jesus needed her to be, and that Mary can also become the mother for us that Jesus wants her to be. Elizabeth, her cousin, she was correct when, after greeting Mary, her cousin, she announced, "Blessed are you who believed that what was spoken to you by the Lord would be fulfilled." It is as a disciple, a listener, that Mary is a model for us and for all Christians. In Italy, in a small town where St. Dominic was born, there is a convent chapel, and there's this small statue of Our Lady near the altar. It's a crude Romanesque figure, and it's not more than 3 feet high, but it has a very interesting feature. As a matter of fact, 2 features. The first is that she has a very small mouth. And the second is that she has large ears. And one recognizes the disproportion right away. But when they look at the title of the statue, they realize what's being emphasized. She's called Our Lady of the Ears, the one who listens. Again, this is Mary's greatest gift, because as a disciple and listener, Mary becomes for us a great model. And as a mother, she helps us in this challenge that Jesus offers us. Isaiah the prophet, he tells us, "It is the Lord who morning by morning pierces the ears of prophets and preachers, to first of all listen like a disciple, and the same Lord gives us a disciple's tongue to know how to give a word of comfort to the weary." But the listening comes first, before any action. So if we wish to be a disciple, to be truly, as Jesus says, his sister or brother, we need to learn to listen. First, to listen to the needs of others around us, and to listen to God speaking to us through his words and through our daily experiences. You know, St. Alphonsus used to urge his confreres who went out on the missions that before they preached the word of God, that they should first pray that they understand those to whom they were going to preach, in order that you might preach to their needs. In other words, first get to know them. Understand these people in this particular town that you are going to preach the good news to, and then take that good news and weave it into a sermon that's going to speak to their needs. Because understanding people first and then preaching the word, living the word to suit the needs of those to whom you are caring for, that's the Christian way. As a preacher of the word for over 30 years, I have never been comfortable simply preaching doctrines of the church, because preaching is not teaching only. It's a sharing of one's own questions and experience. Someone I have always seen as really embracing this role of a model preacher is the Samaritan woman at the well, who, after meeting Jesus at the well, rushes back to the village and tells the villagers all about the man who gave her life by giving her water. And then she asks them, could this be the Christ? Again, preaching, living the gospel, is a sharing of the questions, and in the sharing is found the message of comfort. Mary is blessed because she heard the word of God. She questioned, as we hear in the gospel at the Annunciation, and in the questioning, she kept it by saying yes. St. Augustine says, Mary is holy, Mary is blessed, yet the church is greater than she is. Why? Because Mary is a part of us. She is one of us. She's a member. She wouldn't want to be above all of us. She simply wants to be one among us, one among the whole body. And as a member, as being a part of the whole body, she makes that body greater than the individuals in it. Mary, our mother, leads us. She listens to us. She shares our questions. And she works to help us see God's hand in everything, everything. And she teaches us to hear the word so that we too may say yes, and with her come to praise the greatness of God.